Hello, thanks a lot for tuning in. This is another excerpt from the Power Hour, Joyce O'Reilly's show. This one takes place on Thursday, October 20th, and she's talking about gardasil, the vaccination for gardasil.
Again, because there's new information now that young girls are just dropping dead from gardasil. Now, this was posted as of October 19th, yesterday. So, Joe Kovacs of WorldNet Daily has said that there's a story that has been reported many times, but even more so now because of the deaths of young girls. These young girls, they're just dropping dead. They say their headache is about to explode, and now they found new documents that reveal new deaths from this shot, many times a mandated shot, the gardasil shot. Gardasil, the controversial drug that took the, remember the Republican debates, and they talked about it early on with Bachmann and Perry? Well, it's back in the news now, and there have been documents unearthed that reveal 26 additional deaths caused by the shot designed to help prevent young women from getting a sexually transmitted disease that could lead to a cervical cancer. The public interest group Judicial Watch has obtained the documents through the Freedom of Information Act and the FDA, detailing reports of harmful reactions to the vaccination for the human papillomavirus, also known as HPV. The adverse reaction reports detail 26 new deaths between September 1st, 2010 and September 15th of 2011. That's 1 year, listeners, as well as incidents of seizures, paralysis, blindness, pancreatitis, speech problems, short-term memory loss, and Guillain-Barré syndrome. What are people even thinking playing this Russian roulette with this vaccine? Now, according to the documents, adverse gardasil events reported to the FDA include the information that was received from one patient's mother concerning her healthy 14-year-old daughter in August 2007, January 2008, and June of 2008. She was vaccinated with the first, second, and third dose of gardasil. It was reported the patient experienced several symptoms, including numbness, tingling in her fingers, toes, fatigue, a hard time falling asleep, urinary tract infection, ovarian cyst, moody, trouble getting out of bed, and seizures. The patient had upwards of 150 seizures. That's a 14-year-old girl, following her third shot in June of 2008. During the seizures, she stopped breathing for periods of 30 to 40 seconds. The patient was diagnosed with neurocardiogenic syndrome and seizures. It was reported that the patient died due to ovarian cyst. The reporter felt the patient's symptoms were related to the vaccination with gardasil. There's a lot more reports. It'll be in your email blast, listeners. Check it out. I mean, it's pretty depressing to read this, given the fact that so many girls have already received this, and I've gotten a lot of emails from mothers who say, I am just scared to death because I made her take the shot, and now I don't know what's going to happen. There was a young girl that recently had a cardiac arrest in her school. She was going down the hall, and she went into a seizure and a cardiac arrest. They did not release whether or not she had had the gardasil vaccine. I would sure like to know if she had had it. But think about this. There have been 25,000 adverse reports on the gardasil vaccine. 25,000. Excuse me. I mean, how about maybe 100 and we do something about it? They are waiting, and 25,000, and they're still mandating this be given to young girls? And now young boys? What are they thinking? You talk about a Russian roulette vaccine. I'm telling you, that is it. So that'll be in your email blast, listeners. Thank you to Gluteus Maximus for sending that. That is really an amazing story from the standpoint of evidence and documentation. How much more evidence do you need? Now, if you'd heard that story, if you, and I didn't even give it to you in its entirety, but if you had heard that story in its entirety with all the evidence to support what I just said, would you give your child that vaccine? would you force them to take that vaccine because, that's just, I don't know, bad publicity? I can't think of any reason that anyone would want to put out that information if it weren't accurate. Why would any person say, never mind, I'm going to discount all that information, I'm going to go ahead and have a little Sherry take it anyway? What are they thinking? 25,000 adverse reaction reports. You know what? I start to get concerned at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adverse reactions. And remember, not every person reports an adverse reaction. Just like this one girl that they said, it was an ovarian cyst that she died of. Really? You don't want to rule it what it really is, maybe. That's what happened with the Gulf War veterans. Anyway, speaking of viruses, it's been more than a month since a virus infected the remote cockpits of America's drone fleet. And the U.S. military still does not know exactly how the machines at Creech Air Force Base in Nevada got infected. We're not quite sure how this happened yet, General Robert Kaler told reporters on Tuesday. Kaler's head of the U.S. Strategic Command, which is nominally in charge of the military cyber command and all other online activities. And they don't know yet. It was a virus that we believe at this point entered from the wild. From the wild, if you will, not specifically targeted at the RPA or the remotely piloted aircraft activities, but entered through some other process. Are y'all buying this? Do you see how tenuous our internal structure is for computers, telecommunications, etc.? Do you see? I mean, if it can just come in from the wild and make those planes just go start shooting good guys instead of bad guys, darn. Well, the Pentagon is ordinarily reluctant to talk about any computer security breaches, which is true. Even routine infections are treated as military secrets. For example, the cleanup of a common, if widespread worm, was considered a classified mission, undertaken under the name of Operation Buckshot Yankee. When Kaler's predecessor mentioned the phrase at a conference in May of 2010, several people in the room gasped at the seeming indiscretion because it was a classified term. But the drone cockpit virus has already received so much publicity that the military decided to speak up just a little. Last Wednesday, the Air Force issued a press release calling the infection more of a nuisance than an operational threat. Yeah, you bet. Now, I would say that something that you can't figure out where it came from, knowing that it might happen again, is probably a little more than a nuisance. An anonymous defense official, now this I don't ever buy into anyway, an anonymous defense official told the Associated Press that the malware is routinely used to steal login and password data from people who gamble or play games like Mafia Wars Online. Now, wait a minute. What are they throwing at us? Well, gee, this looks like something that might happen with somebody playing or gambling with Mafia Wars Online. The Air Force added that credential stealer code was transported from computer to computer through portable hard drives. On Tuesday, Kaler appeared to walk that explanation back just a little bit. He said that the hard drives were one possible path of the infection, but not the only path. What are you thinking? First of all, they're telling us how vulnerable they are. Then they're telling us how much they don't know about how vulnerable they are. I mean, you think of all the things that are run by a computer, and they're all potentially vulnerable. Every one of them. Now, how about having drones that go crazy, postal, whatever you want to call it? What about drones that just all of a sudden, they just started shooting and hey, we're really sorry about that, but
Did you spend money on my
one of the things in the ground control system that we do is we transfer data using hard drives that we actually move from machine to machine. So with that, there's always a possibility to have something that will get in through the loops of the system. Air Force spokesperson John Haynes told Inside the Air Force that the malware had been removed from Creech's remote cockpits. The malware... Now, wait a second. The malware from people who gamble or play games like Mafia Wars Online was removed from the cockpits of the remote aircraft? You know what? That'd be one of those real head scratchers, wouldn't it? Like, how did it get into the cockpit of a remote-controlled aircraft in the first place? Now, the Air Force is focusing on a couple of remote locations that still need to be scanned to ensure that malware is not resonant on those systems. One military insider said the 24th Air Force, the cybersecurity specialist of the Air Force, not only found out a...
Hey guys, alright, so sorry for letting it run a little long. I just thought that that article about the drones was pretty interesting as well that she went into. So yeah, Joyce Riley, man, over at gcnlive.com on the Power Hour. Thanks a lot, Joyce, for all your work, and I love listening to you. She she airs every day, guys, between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. She does a 3-hour show, and I think it runs Eastern 8 to 11 potentially. Anyways, yeah, so sorry about this video running a little bit long. If you guys were interested and watched it, that was great. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned for my other videos and leave me comments and suggestions. Thanks a lot for viewing once again. God bless and amen.